Hello Britain and welcome to UK Pulse. I'm Jack Carter. Let's grab a brew and get into it. This week was brutal. 3 enormous stories landed in days. A government plan offering up to £40,000 to families of failed asylum seekers to leave voluntarily. Arrests linked to alleged Chinese spying that touch an MP's household. And a frankly gloomy downgrade to Britain's growth forecasts. They all hit ordinary people, in the pocket, in our security, and in our trust. No spin, just the facts and what they actually mean for you. Stay with me for the next half hour. We'll unpack each one, and I want to hear which one lands hardest with you. First up, the asylum shock. On March 5th, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood set out a scheme in an IPPR speech that's already turned into headline fodder. The gist, the state will offer up to £10,000 per adult and a family cap of £40,000 to failed asylum seekers who leave Britain voluntarily. A small pilot to start. The phrase used, firm but fair. Sounds tidy on paper, but the reaction? Listen to the scale for a second. 40 grand. Think about your household, a year's wages for many, or more. I see you there. You know how that lands. For most people struggling to get by, that number feels obscene when they're juggling bills, childcare, mortgages. It's incendiary. What's the government saying? Mahmood and ministers frame it as practical. Cheaper than long-term accommodation, faster than costly legal wrangling, a way to clear the backlog, and crucially, an argument that voluntary returns are less acrimonious and more likely to stick than enforced removals. So, a cost saving and an operational fix rolled into one. The pilot, they say, will test whether cash incentives actually move people out of the system faster. But here's the rub. Is this primarily about saving money, or is it a political signal on borders? It's both, and that's where it gets messy. If it works, ministers will say it unclogs the system. If it fails, opposition lines will be loud and fast. Predictable responses have come in sharp and divided. On the left, accusations of bribery, inhumanity, a betrayal of Labour's values. That offering cash to leave treats people like commodities. On the right, outrage that life-changing sums might go to rejected claimants while British families struggle to cover basics. Online, oh boy, the memes came quick. Payslips versus 40k screenshots. People genuinely angry and bewildered. Online, oh boy. So, some key questions for you. Will cash offers actually cut the costs of the asylum system once you factor in uptake, fraud risk and return logistics? Will it speed up removals or just create a market for people traffickers to exploit? And politically, does the government hope this wins votes by appearing decisive on borders, or is it a gamble that could backfire spectacularly? My short read, it's an expensive, high-stakes gamble. It buys headlines and might unclog a few cases, but it risks moral outrage and could be a very expensive experiment if uptake is low or returns fail. All right, moving on. Now, spies, Parliament and public trust. On March 4th, David Taylor was arrested on suspicion of spying for China. He's the husband of Labour MP Joni Reid. 2 other suspects were arrested in raids in London and Wales. All 3 are in custody. Joni Reid has strongly denied any knowledge and is cooperating. She's been suspended from the Labour whip while the investigation continues. Let's be clear. These are arrests, not convictions. The official line from ministers was careful. They say Reid was not the target and that no classified material is thought to have been compromised. Counter-terror police and security services are urging patience. But after recent cases involving journalists, researchers and ex-officials linked to China, this looks like more than an isolated blip. So what should you worry about? First, foreign influence. How deep does it go? Second, vetting and protection around elected officials. Are MP circles a weak link? Third, public trust. Even an investigation before charges chips away at faith in Parliament. People see headlines, not caveats, and that sticks. Politically, this lands awkwardly for Keir Starmer's team. They're already handling pressure over foreign policy choices and economic figures. A spy probe tied to an MP's household adds fuel to skeptical headlines and gives opponents something to shout about. Not ideal timing. And the intelligence picture. Security services say they're watching patterns, not panicking, but attentive. The message from Whitehall is, take it seriously, but don't run with conspiracies. I get that. But for many listeners, the question's simple. Can we trust the people in power to keep secrets safe and to be transparent when things go wrong? Right, breathe. Now, the economy. The Office for Budget Responsibility has downgraded growth for 2026 from 1.4% to 1.1%. Unemployment is forecast to peak later this year. Inflation remains sticky. That's the short version. The medium version? Global shocks, notably rising oil prices due to tensions in the Middle East, are feeding into domestic costs. Energy, transport, food. You see it at the petrol pump and on your heating bill. Chancellor Rachel Reeves is talking about stability and long-term plans. That's the government line. Steady the ship, plan for growth. But people at the supermarket checkout don't have time for long plans. They need price relief now. There's a credibility gap between macro policymaker language and the micro reality. A small bright spot, house prices rose by around 1% in February. But that is not a major turnaround. It doesn't solve squeezed real incomes, higher mortgage costs for those on variable rates, or the pressure on living standards. If oil prices keep climbing because the Iran conflict widens, even that 1.1% growth could look optimistic. What does this mean politically? Less fiscal room for big giveaways, more pressure on public services and benefits, and another strain on public trust. If people feel the economy is slipping and politicians offer platitudes, anger grows. So, stitch those three threads together. You've got a border policy that uses cash to incentivize exits, controversial and costly. You've got a security scare probing foreign influence in the corridors of power. And you've got an economy that's wobbling under global pressures. Each on its own is bad enough. Together, they compound the sense that Britain is being buffeted and that people in charge are making high-stakes, sometimes desperate-sounding choices. Now, I want to make this personal. These stories today are not abstract. They are bills. They are safety. They are trust. You might be looking at your own household budget and thinking, 40k, give me that and I'll. Or you might be worried neighbours are more at risk. You might be saying, spy arrests, startling, but wait for facts. Or you're at the pumps thinking, when will this pressure ease? So here's what I want from you. Which story is hitting you hardest? The Asylum cash scheme, fair policy, or outrageous giveaway? The spying arrests, worrying sign, or overblown? The economic downgrade, are you feeling it yet at the pump or checkout? Tell us. Leave a voice note or write a comment with your name and town. Keep it short, 1 minute if it's a voice note. We'll pick the best and mention them in the next episode. Say who you are and where you're from. I want to hear real people, not hot takes. A couple of parting points. Policy experiments like the 40k plan need scrutiny. How will uptake be monitored? What safeguards will stop fraud? On security, facts first, but transparency too. And on the economy, policymakers must bridge the credibility gap by showing immediate relief alongside longer plans. I don't want to be alarmist, but let's be honest. These developments strain our institutions and everyday life. That's why we keep asking the hard questions. That's why your voice matters. That's the Pulse today. Raw, real, and right here in Britain. Stay informed and stay safe. UK Pulse, cutting through the noise. See you next time.